Hello and welcome. Unit 3 will look at lean concept and what is waste. The first short recording we will have look at what lean is and the concept behind lean. We look at as a lean philosophy, who is the customer, and visualizing the process, and why are these important elements to understand regarding lean. So lean is a philosophy with a goal to increase productivity by systematically eliminating waste. So it's a philosophy so it increase productivity and by reducing waste in that process. But the important word is systematically. So it's not, you don't just make a good savings or reduce waste on one activity and then the next time you're doing that activity you revert back to the old way of doing things. You try to sustain the gains that you have by increasing your productivity by reducing waste, and then you continually try to make improvements. The line down here, the endless transformation of waste into value from the customer's perspective. So the customer's perspective is important. It's not from your own organization's perspective. So in short, it's from you're meeting the customer's requirements, and if you keep meeting customer requirements, then your business overall will be more positively seen, get more repeat business, and likely grow and achieve its market share. Making sure, and lean is all about putting the customer at the center and making sure that whatever you're doing, it's to add value to the customer. So customers are entitled to presume that their work and services that they purchase is of high standards, a high quality. So that's a reasonable. If you purchase something, you think it should be right. You don't expect it will be all right or 50%. Understanding this diagram here shows when you find out that the customers are unhappy, there's potentially an awful lot of other problems going on that you haven't realized. Only when you actually think a 3 or 4%, a small percentage actually complain directly to you. Others complain about you to other people, or others people just have experience and don't complain at all, but aren't happy. So it's really important that you go and understand who your customer is and you talk to them. So who is the customer? As I mentioned there, your customer is in construction projects. You think, well, actually the person paying for the work. So it's your client, it's your main contractor if I'm working as a subcontractor. So in my mind, they're my customer. That's who actually going paying me. But it also can be the next person in the process of activity. So if you're a block layer, well then my next customer will be the plasterer, will be my carpenter, or even the electrician. If I put the wall up and it's not plumb, then the plasterer is trying to have to make that right by filling it out. The wall isn't plumb around windows or doors, then it's actually I'm making more work for my carpenter, or vice versa. Same for electricians, he's struggling to have the boxes level and things like that. So it's important to understand it's not just the end user or the customer we would expect as the client, so to speak. It's actually also the next person in the line who will be taking over your work. So the steel fixer ideally then goes to the carpenter, then to the concrete pouring gang, or even the engineer that's checking that quality of work. So how do we understand what our customer wants? In simple terms, you go and ask them. You talk directly to the customer. You don't assume. You ask the customer, and then you understand the concepts. What's important to the customer. Every customer is different, and every customer will have different values. We might we might know most of them, but there's also very simple. Have a door, open it, and allow yourself talk to the customer and understand what they actually want. So now we're moving on to actually just visualizing the process. So in this case, if we don't understand the process that we're actually doing with activities and how they link together, we don't really know what we're doing. We're just doing a task, and then we don't know who's next in line, who actually is our customer. Now, most of us all know this, but it's worth visualizing, and the idea of visualizing is it makes it easy to see. So we have a steel fixer, shuttering, and concrete, pouring concrete and finishing. So each one of these activities are in a block of, I suppose, a block of work. And we within each one of these, within the steel fixer process, we have turnaround time, which is the overall lead time. We have processing time, and we have required time. So when we break this down a little bit, so we have turnaround time, which is the start and finish of that activity that we've assumed. How long does the entire step take? Plus, what's the first time right ratio? How many times do we get this right first time? That's the kind of, are we having problems with this? That's that process. Then we break it down into this processing time, or we can add that to adding value. That's the actual work that's what really the client is paying for. How much time is spent on the actions that create true value for the customer. So that actual processing time. So in this case, steel fixing is actually tying the bars together and fixing that cage and making it. That's exactly what the shutterers want that down the line. They don't really care about if I'm spending half a day going up and down getting fuel from my console. It's when that cage be finished, so I can actually get in and start putting my shutters up. And then you have to break that down. And then there's one more process, so it's called required time. So it is how much time is spent on actions that are not necessary, but do not create the true value for the customer. So things like ordering the steel, making sure that there is fuel in the jerry can, making sure that we have two-stroke, etc. All these things, tie wire, we have it, and how much talking and making sure we're building that cage to the right information getting from the engineer. So these are kind of unavoidable tasks. You can talk about invoicing, orders. You need to do them, but realistically they're not adding value to their customer. So they're unavoidable. So, but everything else, if they don't fit into them two categories, they go into the red category in this case, which is known as waste. And anything that's in waste is basically you're looking at it saying, how can we reduce that, or should we try to be eliminated out of the overall process? And that's getting into the fundamentals of what lean is, removing the waste. So you can see, like you're talking about your lead time there. So remove them, put them all together, and then remove the waste. And this would be classified here, the bottom one, as perfection, and this is understanding what potential waste is actually in the overall process. So in short, if you can't visualize it and you can't see potential waste, well then you can't see potential savings and how you're going to reduce it. So realistically, I don't know how achievable this is, but you can still make some massive savings on reducing that waste on a simple process. So understanding the process is very important, and visualizing it, reducing time. And that's what I wanted to cover in this short recording. So hope you got something out of it, and we'll be covering the 8 wastes in our next recording now in a moment.